you know, my father put the bug in me. You know, he was an usher at the Langhorne and Trenton, so we go to the races over there all the time. He'd take me up to Flemington. So, and then he, you know, when I got old enough to run quarter midgets, he bought a quarter midgets, and we ran them for, you know, from up until you're 15, you can run quarter midgets. So we ran them for a while, and then like went in the service, and then that's when he bought the modified or a sportsman car, and then I started running them. But I always wanted to do it.
Number 84, I think.
Yeah, first car was 84 because like when I tried to be 82, they said somebody else already had 82. You know, I wanted 82 because like you know the Foyt fan, that was one of his numbers. You know, was an 82. So I said I'll use 82, and they said they had an 82. So I went one of Foyt's alternate numbers, 84. You know, always wanted to run number 1 for a Foyt number. You know, because that was my goal with the Mac car the following year to be number 1, but they wanted somebody else to drive it, so they changed the number then.
Larry, when you were in quarter midgets, besides Steve Krisloff, who were some of the other principal competitors that you were involved in?
At our national meet at Pendel, and don't know what year it was. Like I said, I was in 15 and 65, so probably somewhere in there, 63, 64. The trips came from California, and Sleepy Trip showed us how to get around. So we raced against him, but it was one of them deals. You just watched the back of his car. He was off and gone. They were just head and shoulders above everybody in our area when they came in. And Stevie Howard used to run furlong. He went on to run sprint cars out in Penty there and had the misfortune of losing his life out there, but I raced against him. And we had one national meet that, you know, came in, I think it was at Doylestown. We had a national meet over there, and Steve Krisloff came in there, and, you know, it's something you see some of these guys that come in, you run against them, and they hear about them later on in years, you see them on the tracks doing good and everything, so it's pretty neat to run against some of them guys. And once they grow up, you know, you can say you raced against them.
Newt, how did you guys start? I remember the Butler built cars earlier.
Yeah, no, I started well before that.
Yeah.
I used to go with my parents all the time to Flemington. My mom's brother used to work on Jimmy Horton Sr.'s car when Beavers drove it, when it was the 43, and I always said, you know, I could do that, and, you know, it's easy to say that, hard to do. Anyway, I was 17, and I bought, Beavers had a car, a coupe, number 3. And Jimmy Horton Sr. had a motor. I bought the whole deal for $1,000. Didn't even have a garage. Still lived at home. Took it home, drained the block, right off the get-go. I thought it drained. What did I know? But it was rusted shut. It cracked the block. So right off the get-go, I was behind the 8 ball. But Mr. Horton fixed it for me, and that's the car I ran the first year. So basically, that's how I started hanging in Horton's garage with my uncle, I guess. And my cousin used to go out with Jackie McLaughlin. We're going back prior to that. I got a picture autographed to me from Jackie back in the day. In fact, it's one of these I think you have right here. But yeah, that's how I started, basically hanging around, just saying I could do it, you know. Until they threw the green, I'll never forget that. As I got in that car and I come off the second turn at Flemington, and that was my original green. I could see it come on, you know. I mean, they went by you like 100 miles an hour, and you're saying, well, maybe I can't do this. It's amazing how fast them guys go, you know.
I know you had your own cars for a long time, and you ran your teams and everything else. Was it harder to do that, or was it harder to get your kids going?
You mean, I don't know what you mean, harder to get going. It's harder to get the kids going because it's my money. I know. I know that. I guess it was harder for me to get going because, I mean, I just wanted to do it. And it didn't matter how I did it, I was going to do it, you know. Now we do it with the kids because I spend the money, so it's, you know. It was tough when I started. I mean, I just didn't have the resources. I mean, it takes a lot of money, you know, to run good. You know, I had many good years, don't get me wrong, but, you know, hard work and spending money maybe. I mean, I always had it, but, you know, spending what you wanted to go racing. You know, I really enjoyed it.
Larry, are you done up there?
I'm done.
You mentioned this a little while ago, I gotta ask this here. What happened was Trenton Mack at the off-season there? I mean, he won the championship, 4 races for them, won pretty much, I think, as many races as anybody else. When did you find out that you were out of the car? What kind of reasons did they give you? And what was the story there?
Let's see. Flemington always opened up on, let's see, the Sunday after Easter, right? It was approximately 2 weeks before the opener, they told me I wasn't driving the car. And that was a shock to me. And they even told me they didn't really know if they had any idea who they'd have in the car. They just figured it wasn't going to be me. So I had 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks to try and figure out what I wanted to do. So called around and found out that Cecily, you know, hadn't made up his mind what he was going to do yet. So I called him and then he said, well, that was when Glenn was just starting to run the Sprinter, so. He said, I'll call you back, and I got lucky and got Tony's car, you know, with that short notice. But why? I never had a true explanation why they decided to switch shoes. They just said they were going to go another route. Because I figured I had a car I could maybe do 3, 4, 5 years in, you know, but I took care of it. One bumper all season, so I figured I didn't hurt it.
You work on the car during the off-season too?
Yep. Yeah. We'd have a night, Tuesday nights, we'd all be there on Tuesday nights to check it out. And I usually show up on Friday and make sure everything was ready. You know, Sam Salora would work on it all week long, getting everything ready. And he was a great pick guy, a crew guy to work on a car. He'd check everything. Anything he didn't like, he would just say, it's not staying on, it's coming off, get a new one. And he knew the car was always ready when you drove out at Flemington every Saturday. But the reasons, you got my personal reasons why they switched, but I just was hoping to have a couple years in the car instead of just one.
Everybody that's raced, I know, has had a nemesis, I guess you could say, a guy that you really hate to race with against, or you had a lot of
You
issues.
see, I ain't sitting close to it.
Other than Newt. You guys have a certain person or reason or anything like that, or story to tell about that?
Well, I guess if people were in the stands the one night at Flemington, they know I don't like Danny Johnson.
I'll second that. I don't like him either.
But I've changed my opinion of Danny. I've watched him race over the past couple of years. He can get the job done. Just that night, he wasn't my favorite. And as for having, a person that actually hated to race on a racetrack or had a determination that I just didn't like him, I never disliked anybody on the track. I just enjoyed racing with them and hoping that they enjoyed racing with me. Drivers knew when I was mad at them. I had a way of telling them I disgruntled on the track before we got off. And Newt knew what it was. He got out of the way one day after we had a rub coming through the pack that I felt wasn't right.
Yep.
So I went down to see him. He said, I knew what you were going to do. That's why I stopped.
Right. Well, see,
But he knew then that was it.
That's what we did.
Yeah. We would settle it quick.
Done, over. There's not, like today, it's tit for tat and goes on and on and on. You do your deal and it's over.
It did.
And you race these guys every week. I remember one time I was at Grandview and I knew I got in too deep, too low, and it was Billy. And I knew, I got up into him, didn't take long, down the back, bang, that's it. I understand, I know what I did, and was there anyone I really hated to race against? No, not really. I mean, there was other guys, there was competition, you'd obviously have guys that were tougher to race against, but he had the incident with Danny Johnson, I had it at Rolling Wheels with him, during Syracuse, and I loved the wheels. It was like Windsor to me. and I had a straightaway lead. And I wasn't a dirt guy, I just go up for that race only, a Windsor guy. And straightaway lead with 2 to go, bald tires now, but I was gonna win. Brett Hearn blows his motor, he rolls off the track, but he was a dirt guy. Second is Danny Johnson, yellow. So here we are, on bald tires, I don't know what he's got, but it's Danny Johnson. He plowed me in the ass. The last lap, or white flag lap going down the back, tried to jack me around, I wouldn't go for that. The next lap, the last lap, he drove both of us off the track, and Hartman won. So, didn't really pan out for him either, but...
Still doing the same thing.
It's the same thing, yeah, no, he does do that. I mean, he can drive, but he can be dirty, you know.
When you were running Sportsman, you said before 18, I remember a lot of times we had over 20 cars in a heat race. We used to have between 80 to 100 cars
Oh,
there.
yeah, absolutely.
And then first 3 or 4 laps in a race, you had to bounce off a lot of people or you didn't even qualify.
Yeah, well, we're back...
But everybody understood it.
Back in the day, like Rich Hinkle, we used to race back then, we'd have just, because we were good friends, and Mike Tosco, but he was terrible. But anyway, he was my best friend, and we would have a bet to see who could lead the quickest from the furthest back in the heat. So one day I started 16th in the heat and was leading down the back. Everybody kept dropping down perfect, and I just stayed up and up and up, and it was like, you gotta be kidding. But yeah, there's always a lot of cars in Flemington. Grandview, when I ran there, a lot of cars.
My memory serves me correct, but there was a year, I think it was Mark, you, Bob Fisher, I'm not sure if you were there or you moved up or not, but that year, the Sportsmen were more exciting than the Modifieds. Everybody couldn't wait to watch that show instead of the Modifieds. Were you there that year?
It could have been.
Yeah.
You know, like his brother ran good in '78, he ran good, I was good, Fisher was good.
Yeah.
That was like, in the year before that, and I guess he was still running good, that Mark Richards, you know, it was tough. When you ran Sportsman at Flemington, even when they said you gotta win 7 to win, it's like, shoot, you're lucky if you win 4, you know? Like you said, you start a heat race, and these guys are crying, they start heat races at New Egypt, or at 8, you know, they're,
Yeah.
you know, we started heat races at Flemington, we're starting 14th, 16th in the heat race, you know?
That's great.
Taking 6th. You know, you're not gonna get a token fan vote in, or the, you know,
Right.
provisional deal, we had to follow.
Yeah, you had to actually do it, you know?
Did you two guys have like a mentor that would come over to you in the pits and say something like, maybe you should do this, or I saw you do this, maybe you shouldn't do that, or?
Not me, actually,
No,
no.
I didn't
Learned on your own?
Yeah,
I just hit and miss myself when I started, like
Yeah.
you did, and you start with your car, and like us, him, me, the guys all at Flemington, they all built their own, worked on their own cars,
Yeah.
you know, there's a lot of cars at New Egypt, when they leave home Saturday, they're at the shop, the owners, to tow them to the builders and let them fix them for the following weekend. Don't have a clue how to work on them, you know?
Right.
I guess if anybody, I mean, I like to drive in cars. Working on them, I never did like working on them, but the only way you could run them is by working on them. I guess I bounced a lot off John Burnett, to be honest. I mean, he helped me a lot with setup. He really did. Yep.